Hi guys, and welcome to graphing rational functions of the form y equals a over x minus h plus k. So all of these functions are going to have about the same general shape, and that shape is called a hyperbola. Okay, so if you look over here at this very small coordinate plane that I drew here, I'm going to sketch, this is just kind of the general way that it's going to look. So it's going to look something like this. You have two branches, okay, it's always going to be two different branches that are curving away from each other. Okay, so see how they're kind of facing away from each other? It's always going to look sort of like this. They're always going to be across from each other diagonally, so they could be like this, or they could be across from each other diagonally the other way. All right, so this is just a general form of how we're going to expect our graph to look. And then looking at this specific example, if you haven't yet watched the asymptote video, you should go and watch that first because I'm starting off with a problem from there so that we can concentrate on making sure that we get everything looked at really carefully for how we actually graph this part of it. Okay, so first you always start with graphing the asymptotes, and then once you do that, you're going to pick a couple of points to the left and then a couple of points to the right of the vertical asymptote. Okay, so you just find, so here for example, the vertical asymptote is at x equals 1. Okay, so we need to pick some points to the left of that for our x. So I picked 0, -1, and -2 over here. Okay, and so once you pick your points, you're going to just plug them into the equation. All right, so if we plug in 0, so you'd have 0 minus 1, that's -1. So 3 divided by -1 gives you -3, and -3 plus 2 is -1. Okay, so our first point would be the point 0, -1. All right, we know that point's on the graph. And then we're going to plug in our other points here, so that -1 and the -2. And when we plug them in, you guys can do the math. I'll let you do it on your own. But we end up with 1/2 here, and we end up with 1 right here. Okay? So once you've done this, you want to go over to your graph and actually plot them here. Okay, so first we've got the point 0, -1. Okay, so x is 0, y is -1, and that's this point right there. All right, so we're going to put a point right there. And now we go to the next point, -1, 1/2. So we're going to go to the left 1 and up about 1/2. So we're right here. Okay, and then finally -2, 1 would be left 2, up 1, right here. Okay, so don't worry about connecting them or anything yet. Just make sure you have those 3 points plotted. And now we're going to look at the points to the right of the vertical asymptote. Okay, so again, the asymptote is at +1. So I picked +2, 3, and 4 here. All right, so once I've picked my other points, okay, I'm going to plug those in as well, just exactly the same as I did the other one. All right, so I take my 2, plug it in, 2 minus 1 is 1, 3 divided by 1 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. Okay, exactly the same steps that I had just taken over here. Okay, same thing, you're going to end up plugging in 3 here, and you're going to get 3.5. And then you're going to end up plugging in 4, and you're going to get just 3. Okay, and again, you guys can check those calculations on your own, and we get them by just taking whatever the x is and plugging it into our equation and getting out y. All right, so now we do the same thing with this. We're going to plot our points. So we've got the point 2, 5, so that's over 2 and up 5, which is right here. Okay, then 3, 3.5, so over 3. And then notice, I just want to point this out, that you're going, when you're plotting the points, you're still using the x and the y axis. So this, the black line here, and we're not counting from the kind of new axes that it kind of looks like we've made. You're still just plotting these points like normal, okay? So 3, 3.5 is about right here. And then finally, 4, 3 is right there. All right, so then the last thing that you need to do is you're actually going to draw in these curves. So what happens is your graph is going to try to get really close to these lines without ever crossing it. So you're just going to kind of draw in a curve where you get really close to this line without crossing it, put an arrow, and get really close to this line without crossing it. Okay, and same thing for the other branch. You're going to draw through a curve that gets really close to this line but doesn't cross it, and which gets really close to this line but doesn't cross it either. Okay, and that is all.